My name is Abigail Manser. This is my unit plan on Kitten's first full moon. It's a first grade unit plan, and here is my cover page, and you can see my students' work in our hallway. This is going to be a 5-day integrated thematic unit plan based around that mentor text, Kitten's First Full Moon, by Kevin Hinks. And then it actually integrates science, art, math, and reading comprehension. So here is my outline of that. You'll see that in science, we're going to be talking about the moon's phases. In reading, we're going to discuss cause and effect mostly, but we're going to read multiple stories to help with reading comprehension. In art, the focus will be collage and creation. And in math, the focus is going to be on standard measurement using 1 inch. So I actually created a learning progression showing what the students will have learned before, during, and after the unit. So before, in reading comprehension, we'll be working on predictions and plot setting. And then in this unit, we'll talk about cause and effect. And then later, we'll go on to discuss inferences as well as biography. In math, they've been working with shapes, and we're now going into measurement, mostly non-standard. But in this unit, I wanted to work with an example of standard measurement by incorporating the 1 inch with a true ruler that we're going to use for that activity. And then next they'll go on to longer and shorter in math. And in art, we've mainly only discussed the colors, so we're going to move on to collage, and then next we're going to learn some painting after this unit. So that's where this fits into the students' learning. And then I have a chart that represents the standards. So on reading, we have lots of standards because we definitely want to make sure that we're hitting key details and having retelling and all those things with the students every time we read. Every time there's a book in the lesson, I'm going to have a reading standard that goes along with that. In math, we're talking about the measurement standard, which the focus is mainly on non-standard, but again, we're going to use standard for this one. And then in science, we'll be illustrating the sequences of planets in our solar system by working with the moon's phases. Then in art, we're going to talk about the standards are explore the uses of various media, using grade level appropriate elements of art and principles of design, utilize traditional and or new media and tools safely and appropriately, and then content standard number 3, refine and complete artistic works. So the schedule is going to go like this. Every day we work on reading comprehension after lunch and recess. So on Monday we'll start with introducing the story and discussing cause and effect. Tuesday we'll move on to the science lesson, then introduce art and math, then finish up the art and have the post-assessment. And then I'll give the pre-assessment on Monday earlier in the day. So our objectives here are the student will identify cause and effect in a story using key details with 90% accuracy. The student will correctly mark the moon's 8 phases with 80% accuracy. The student will use a length of inches to cut 20 strips of paper with 80% accuracy, and the student will use mixed media to refine their artwork. So for my pre-assessment, the post-assessment is going to include some questions on the actual story, because each week we present a story and have from the book and use the book's test actually to check their reading comprehension. So I tacked my pre-assessment questions onto the post-assessment, so they're going to look a little different. But first I have a question on cause and effect. So I have a statement, and it says, what is the effect? So I have a chart that represents what cause and effect is for them, and then it says I am sleepy because I went to bed very late. If they can identify that going to bed, that being sleepy is the effect, then I can see that they already get the concept. Many of them didn't, which was good. And then I included, it wasn't cut on their paper, but it showed up cut here, a picture of the moon phases, and then I just wanted to know if they knew that it was called the moon phases at this point. Then I included a photo of a collage, and the question is, a collage is made up of one thing, smaller pieces, or one color. Obviously smaller pieces would be the answer I'm looking for. And then I have a picture that shows non-standard measurement to see if they're grasping that. And I want to know how many paper clips long the pencil is. 3 paper clips long. So in our first lesson, Monday, we would work on, I would introduce Kitten's first full moon and cause and effect. So I actually used this chart that I created, and I put it up, and so we discussed the story, and then we paused, and I asked them what happened, what was the effect of that happening. So that was the cause of this later action that was then the effect. And students really enjoyed filling that out with me, and they liked that I had made it with glitter. They were impressed. So that was kind of fun. And then for independent practice on that activity, I gave them a worksheet that looked just like what we'd done up front, because first grade needs to be very simple. And we conquered that topic. Then on Tuesday, I have lesson 2, the moon's phases. So for that one, I started with reading a book, How the Moon Gets Its Shape, which the students love, and it explained how you can actually see the part that is lit from the sun as it goes around Earth. So that was really cool. And then I found a little booklet on Teacher Pay Teachers on that, and so I filled this out and colored it on the document camera and allowed students to follow along with me. And it just says, when we cannot see any of the moon, we cannot see any of the new moon. So it shows you color that part black. And I had them color it, and then so soon the waxing crescent peeks out. So that's a waxing crescent color this much black. And then it goes through each of the phases. Once we completed that, I passed out cookies, and the students really, really loved it. And I gave them this worksheet on which they were supposed to do the moon phases again, but surrounding Earth with using their cookies. So this was a big struggle, actually. And I have an example of how it turned out. A lot of the cookies were breaking, but I really loved this activity, and I would really recommend using activities that do use food, because they're so motivating to students, and it really gets them involved, at least at the first grade level in my experience. So the third day, I introduced the concept of collage. So I chose a book called Carry Me, Baby Animals on the Move, which was a super cute book. And I actually didn't have it physically. It was available on Epic, which is an app that the students have on iPads. So I checked out the iPads in the morning, and I had the students get them and log on. And I made sure they were all logged on to Miss Hamlet's class in Epic, but I asked them to pull it up and search for the title of the book, which I had on the board. So that's a skill that first graders are really struggling with, so I thought it'd be a really good one to add in there. And so as we read, we paused and discussed the collages we were seeing. When we finished reading, we talked about how we needed pieces to make a collage, so we decided to cut our pieces. I had bought some shiny grayscale cardstock paper, and I gave each of them one of those. It was like gray, black, white, cream, and then I had some other paper that had crazy patterns, and so I cut those into strips, and they were all 1 inch wide. And so I told them, let's measure how wide it is, and then we want to make it a square. So that was kind of reviewing the shapes, which is the last math concept we learned. And if we want to make it a square, how long should it be this way? So obviously it was 1 inch to match, because each side needs to be the same. So I showed them with some rulers that I had laminated just from printing off worksheets, a sheet that had 3 rulers on it, and laminating the sheet and cutting it out. And so they loved getting to keep their ruler, which was cool, because we've been working with non-standard stuff in math. So on my assessment, I just wanted to see if they were able to cut 1 inch squares. The last day, we actually made our collages. It went super well, and we used mixed media. I had them color the cat, the bowl, and then use their light colors for the moon and their dark colors for the sky, and the students really loved it. those were the only lessons that I actually conducted, but if I were to do this again, I might add another lesson that incorporates fine arts. So in my unit plan, I added a lesson on, a tableau is just a picture that you make with your body. So for this lesson, I would have students watch a video of other students creating a tableau of Goldilocks and the Three Bears to introduce what a tableau is, and then we would actually make, in groups, they would make 2 tableaus, one of a cause and one of an effect. So that would kind of incorporate both of those themes. And then for my post-assessment, I just used the same questions from the pre-assessment and the questions that were provided by the text. So you can see those there in my unit. Thank you so much for listening to my first grade unit on Kitten's first full moon. Have a great day. Stay safe.